Next, I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Charles LiMandri, who is the President and Chief Counsel of the Freedom of Conscience Defense Fund.
Thanks, Dan, and thank all of you very much. Quite a bit of what I wanted to cover with you has already been covered by some of the other speakers in one way or another, so I'd kind of like to sum up why we're at this point where we felt this lawsuit was necessary. The San Diego Unified School District has been working for years with CARE, again, the Council for American and Islamic Relations. In fact, entered into a formal written partnership agreement with them in March 2012 to formulate and implement this policy, which involved bringing in people to help educate teachers and staff at San Diego City schools on how to educate students on the Muslim culture, which of course includes the Muslim religion. So when you hear the representative of the school district, as I've heard on the news broadcast recently, that CARE's just provided some information, there's been no formal ties, I'm sorry, but that is belied by documentation we've been sent where they have a formal agreement with them, and indeed in the complaint we filed it quotes information on the San Diego Unified School District website that their intent was to continue with a formal partnership with CARE. That is concerning for the reasons that Dan mentioned, that CARE is considered an extremist Muslim advocacy group by numerous sources, and the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office have severed ties with them because of their support in having people contribute money to them, and they contribute money to organizations, including organizations like Hamas and the Muslim Brotherhood, which are considered to be potential domestic terrorist type groups. So for those reasons, we don't think that the San Diego Unified School District should be partnering with any group that proposes to represent itself as a religious organization, the way CARE does on its website, and particularly one which states that it wants to use this influence to be able to increase the power of any particular religious organization, which CARE does. Their mission and purpose is to spread the influence of Muslims in the United States, which is, of course, is perfectly appropriate for them to want to do that as a legitimate political group, but not in our schools. And the courts are very clear about that. The schools, because kids are impressionable and they're vulnerable to outside influences, when it comes to religion, you can't be using even subtle means to try to spread the influence of religion in the public school system. And in fact, the national spokesperson for CARE stated in an earlier speech that yes, they do want to change the United States into an Islamic state, but not through violence, but through education. Well, look, a lot of people don't share the view that the United States should be an Islamic state under Sharia law. But be that as it may, if they want to try to do that through legitimate political means, is certainly not consistent with our Constitution, but they're absolutely not allowed to do that in the school system by bringing in speakers or by influencing curricular changes or by getting special rights and benefits that allow them to practice their religion in a way that other students can't. And as we're all aware, in the decades since World War II, we've seen a dramatic change in terms of the attitude even towards Christianity in the public square, including the public schools. Coaches can't pray with their team members under them for the safety of the teammates in football games or anything else. You can't be saying Merry Christmas on campus without getting in trouble. You can't even talk about it as a Christmas or Easter vacation. It's got to be winter and spring holidays, but yet the school district said they wanted to roll this out in time for the celebration of Ramadan next month to honor the Muslim holy days. Well, okay, that's fine, but then honor all major religious holy days and give all religious groups the same rights and benefits, and it might start getting unwieldy when you have multiple religious organizations all wanting the right to do that. And particularly keeping in mind, Christians still represent 70% of the population in the United States, Muslims less than 1%, including in San Diego County. So is it disproportionate to allow one group to have favored status when they represent such a small percentage of the population? And if you're going to roll out an anti-bullying program, why San Diego when we have such a small Muslim population compared to other counties, including neighboring Orange County? It's because CARE saw an opportunity in working with the people of a certain political disposition, apparently, on the San Diego Unified School District Board to be able to implement their agenda, which is to promote Islam through the school system. Now, I understand CARE is having a press conference, so some of you people from the media, I hope will ask them, where's your statistics of Muslim students in San Diego being bullied? And what do you consider bullying? Because when I looked at their data, they said 1% of Muslim students statewide are bullied from the point of view of having some type of physical contact on a frequent basis. Obviously, 1% of bullying, particularly physical bullying, is 1% too much for any student. Please be very clear on one thing. It's our position, first and foremost, that all students in San Diego Unified School District and all schools in our county and city and state and nation should have a safe and secure learning environment regardless of race, religion, ethnicity, belief, or non-belief. Schools should be warm and welcoming for everyone, and no one is contesting that, and no one is suggesting that any student from any faith or any other group should be permitted to be bullied by anyone else. Of course, what you consider bullying can be important for CARE if someone, again, is expressing a legitimate viewpoint critical of certain tenets of Islam, perhaps the way women are treated or gays are treated under particular types of religious beliefs, then that can be a legitimate discussion. And if someone says, oh, I feel bullied because you're offending me, because you're criticizing an aspect of my religion that you think is intolerant of women or gays or anything else, that is not what we consider bullying in the United States. In the United States, we still have free speech protected under the First Amendment, as well as free exercise of religion for all people of faith equally. And the way the courts, rightly or wrongly, have interpreted the Establishment Clause with a separation of church and state, basically they haven't allowed any religious expression of Christian and Jewish faiths. So we can't all of a sudden reverse that policy for just one group now and be making special accommodations for Muslim students. So our three main criticisms are: one, the entanglement with CARE, which is a religious organization and really a militant political organization. Two, that it's a pretext because we're not been shown any evidence that there really is a bullying problem of Muslims, particularly in the San Diego schools. And first and foremost, ask CARE, where's your data, again, that any Muslim students are being treated disproportionately, unfairly, or in any way bullied in San Diego City schools. And then three, the preference for one religious group. If you want to have Islam studied as it should be, along with Christianity and Judaism and other major world religions, that's perfectly appropriate. How you do that, what you say, can be important. And if you're going to be bringing in imams, as I understand they have done in some of the schools, to talk to students, then you need to bring in priests and rabbis and ministers. Again, you can't be one-sided about this, and it can't be done to proselytize. And I would assume, if when I'm told that they have brought in imams to 6th grade classes, I can't imagine they're not proselytizing. I mean, that's what they're supposed to do if they're good leaders of their faith. So we want to make sure that it's being done in such a way that it's not violative of the Constitution. And right now, the way this is being rolled out, it certainly appears that it will be, and perhaps even more significantly, CARE has made it clear that this is a pilot program, and if it works in San Diego, they want to roll it out all over the state and the nation. So this is not just a local issue. It's an issue that everybody should be concerned about if they care about the education of their children, and if they want their children to go to school, again, not just have a safe and secure learning environment, but a situation where their values that they may have at home are not being in any way attacked or undermined by the public school system, which is supposed to be neutral to people of all faiths. And it was pointed out that if any group, as I understand it, among the religious communities in the United States is being singled out for discriminatory, adverse discriminatory treatment, is the Jewish population. So let's be fair and honest about that. If there is a problem, address it where the problem really exists. I've called this so-called Islamophobia program a politically correct solution to a problem that does not exist. I have not seen any statistics that would support the fact that it is justified, certainly not in San Diego County. I have seen statistics that there may be concerns about Jewish students, so those should certainly be addressed. And quite frankly, if you're going to be introducing it in a fair and balanced way, in the curriculum and make it sound like Muslim students are somehow being, or Muslims in general, disenfranchised. And I think it's only fair to point out that all of the watchdog organizations for religious organizations worldwide have made it clear that tragically in recent years 90,000 Christians worldwide have been not just persecuted but martyred for their faith, more so than any time in the history of 2,000 years of Christianity. In the past decade, over 1 million Christians in various parts of the world, particularly in the Middle East, have been killed for their faith. In fact, Christianity is being eradicated in the Middle East. So if you're going to have a fair and balanced educational program and be legitimately concerned about people being persecuted for their faith, I think students should be made aware of these issues and not made it look like only one group is being somehow singled out for being persecuted for their faith, when indeed that's not the case. So again, to summarize, we want to have a quality education for all students. We want all students to feel that they're safe and secure. We want the current anti-bullying programs that are already in place to be enforced in a fair and equitable manner, and that there are no special privileges being given to any religious group, including Muslim students. So we have asked the San Diego Unified School District to rescind this unconstitutional policy. We did that formally by letter a month ago. We got no formal response. And because we were being urged by parents to take action, we did file this lawsuit. We since received an email from an attorney from the school district. They'd like to try to see if we can work these issues out. We're all for that. You know, no one is saying we have to have expensive, protracted litigation. If there can be a more common sense approach to this where all students can be protected and no students are being favored to the disadvantage of anyone else. So on that note, I would be happy to take any questions from anyone among the press or others in attendance, but before I do that, I should have started with this. Let me thank you all for being here, for attending. Those who are supporting us, we're very grateful. Those who have an opposing point of view, we're welcome the opportunity to hear that and to express our point of view and the reasons why we feel strongly and passionate about these issues. I will tell you, I'm a San Diego native. I was born in Mercy Hospital. I went through all my elementary and high school and college in San Diego County. I went to law school back east of Georgetown. I had 2 years of graduate school in Britain, but I'm very much a homegrown San Diegan. You know, when I was asked, well, what do I know about the education system? Well, apart from 20 years of formal education as a student, I also taught high school in San Diego and counseled 200 high school students and coached wrestling with high school students. So I like to think I know a little bit about educating healthy students. And some of my students now are parents and their kids are playing football with my kids, so it shows my gray hair has been earned. I've been around long enough to see my students, former students, having kids the same age as my youngest kids. So I do feel qualified to be doing this, but beyond that, beyond being a parent in town and being a lawyer concerned about these issues and a San Diegan that loves our community and our country, as do the rest of you patriotic Americans, these are important issues. And it's important for all of us, including our Muslim brothers and sisters. This is not Islamophobic. You know, I'm a Christian, but I respect people of all faiths. My faith teaches me to love people, not hate people. If people want to say it's hate or bigotry, you know, that is just, as it's been pointed out, an effort to shut down conversations. That's not what we believe. But we just don't want to have our faith being pushed in the corner and then other faiths being elevated. Treat everybody fairly and equally. That's what we're about. Okay, if there's any questions, I can direct it to me or anyone at the panel. I'm sure Mary's happy to answer questions as well. Yes, in fact.
Charles, thank you so much. There's 3 steps according to this anti-bullying policy. One is to provide a safe space for Muslim kids to go if they're bullied. The other is to put the holidays on the calendar. And the third is to teach Islam in the history classes they do other religions. I was confused with, it sounds to me, after hearing all of you, that the thing that you're most upset about is providing the safe space for students to go to if they're bullied, not so much putting the holidays on the calendar. I'm just trying to be clear what you're...
Sure. It's really all aspects of it, to the extent of, once again, it's showing a preference for one religion. If it's a safe space only for Muslim students so they can go through their religious rituals, where students of other faiths are not afforded the same opportunity, that would be constitutionally objectionable, particularly if they're making somewhat of a spectacle of the way they do it, and then demanding that other students not only acknowledge but support a form of religious expression and practice that they may not agree with, and that's not how they choose to worship God. So that could be a concern. If they have a private room somewhere and they want to make that accommodation to the Muslim students and it's not affecting the rest of the school community, and they want to afford the same type of rights and accommodations to other students, I don't see a problem with that. Okay? If that's how they want to express their religious faith and they want to do it in private, I don't have a problem with that. Again, how these things are done. If they're going to talk about Islam in the school curriculum, we don't have a problem with that either. Again, so it's in a fair and balanced way, and they're not whitewashing certain aspects of any particular faith, including the Islamic faith, and then making other faiths look bad or making it look like certain religious tenets are entitled to be elevated in terms of the esteem of the educational community. I mean, you can't be talking about the 5 pillars of Islam as if somehow the school supports and endorses those as being religious truths, as opposed to, we Christians believe Jesus is the Son of God. For Muslims, that would be considered deeply heretical. So you can't be taking sides in that. It's got to be done in a fair and balanced way. And Muslims shouldn't be offended if Christians express themselves, and Christians shouldn't be offended if Muslims express themselves. You can't call it bullying.
What evidence do you have that that is going to be the case? I mean, from what I understand, they already teach Islam in their history classes,
right,
as they do Christianity.
Exactly, and we never had a problem with it. But why now are they talking about having, in their own terms, a holistic and comprehensive approach that includes curricular and extracurricular? What's going to change it and why? And if CARE is the partner, we know what CARE is about. And I already told you what their national spokesperson, communications director, said, that their ultimate goal is an Islamic state under Sharia law and to use the educational system for that purpose. And indeed, let's not be naive. It's not Islamophobic to just recognize the facts, and most Muslims will tell you, if they're devout Muslims and they're following the Quran, that they need to work towards a global caliphate under Sharia law. And if you ask people from CARE ultimately what they believe, and they're honest, they will tell you that. And that's fine if they want to do that in the political system, but not to use the schools to further that purpose. So how you present it and what you present in terms of each major religion is very important. But for Christians, which we're told you cannot ever spread your religion by force or compulsion, and Jews don't evangelize at all, it's important to know those distinctions in a legitimate, non-inflammatory way. Any other questions?
So you're afraid they're going to proselytize? I mean,
yes.
And what evidence do you have that that's going to be the case? Is it because they're partnered with CARE?
Well, I'll be, as honest and forthright as I can. The Quran teaches that you have to. Okay, so if you're going to be devout in your way that you go about expressing, you can't find that phone and turn it off. Okay, your faith, you have to proselytize if you're not a devout Muslim. Now, again, it can be done in such a way that is not happening. But to sit here and say, why would you have a concern? Well, because the people, when you ask them, they'll say, well, they're obligated to do that. The goal, under the Quran, there's countries of peace, which are those under Islamic rule with Islamic leaders, and countries of war, which is everybody else. And then people say, well, yeah, but there's other parts of the Quran that don't say that, and you can pick and choose. I get that, but you have to look at who's ultimately in control and what they're trying to seek, and those are legitimate concerns. That does not mean anybody should be treated unfairly, or that anyone should not be treated with full respect and dignity and allowed to practice their religion in peace. But we don't want to be, again, naive that there are certain people that want to change our government. Again, they have the right to try to do that politically, but not to use the school system for that purpose. So there is a legitimate concern as far as that goes. Now, in terms of putting Islamic holidays on the calendar, again, if they want to do that and put other major religious holidays on the calendar, that's fine. But you realize that's not what's been happening. They took all the religious holidays off the calendar, and you didn't even want to call it Christmas vacation anymore. Now, all of a sudden, because there's a backlash of people like us, they'll say, okay, we'll put them all back on. All right, well, that's an appropriate response then to our complaint. An appropriate response, I'm being told now, is they're going to back off of the formal relationship with CARE. Okay, good. Then what we're doing is the right thing and we're getting some response. Hopefully all the issues will be worked out, but I've tried to explain to you what our legitimate concerns are, and you can see what's happening worldwide in the name of Islam. Again, we can't just because we're afraid of being politically incorrect and be called bigots say that these problems don't exist. We want to work with our Muslim brothers and sisters to make sure that we can exist peaceably, coexist and practice our faith, and that the extremists are in fact made to feel as though they cannot act out in such a way that opposes risks to other people. And there are enough extremists as a legitimate concern. So, yes, sir.
Is there any precedent in California cases or federal cases that where bullying is remedied by providing instruction in a religion to students on one campus?
We've been doing extensive research, and we have other groups helping us, and I have not seen any cases where they've justified using anti-bullying as a basis to do in the schools what has been basically prohibited from the last 30, 40 years. So this is a somewhat novel approach, and CARE did say if it works in San Diego, again, they want to roll it out all over the country. And they originally said bullying was a bigger problem in California, which is why they wanted to start here. Again, I raise the question, if that is true, why San Diego, where it's apparently not a problem? But it's not. That's not the issue. They want to roll it out all over the country in every major city and school district because it furthers their political agenda. I guess one of the things I wanted to say in response to the lady's legitimate questions in the back that makes Islam a little unique. Judaism and Christianity tend not to be a political system. They tend to be more purely religious. Surely there's a lot of devout, peace-loving Muslims that deserve all our protection and our support in the educational process. We have to realize for many, perhaps most Muslims, Islam is also a political system and a legal system. And so those are distinctions we need to keep in mind when we address these issues and how it's going to be taught. Yes, sir.
Can we hear from a parent?
I don't know if there's any parents here that are in a position.
Apologies, the parents have respectfully can't answer the questions.
I have two questions.
Yes.
It sounded like you said you heard that the district may back off of their relationship with CARE. Is that what you were saying, or were you saying that that would be a good solution, a good response?
Two things. One, from their attorney, I understand they're going to de-emphasize that aspect because of the concerns that we raised. I don't want to quote that formally because it's only a phone call, but I am trying to answer your question that we were given that indication that they are going to back off of any formal partnership ties with CARE going forward. And second, where I heard from the representative of the school district on the news, where he was downplaying the relationship with CARE, saying they just provided some information, they haven't been really involved in the process. But again, I think that belies what's transpired. They gave CARE, they issued a proclamation and thanking them for their partnership over the past decade in working on these issues. And now all of a sudden they're saying they were never their partner. So because of that and the concerns we've raised, I have the belief that they are not going to be, at least openly, expressing this partnership with CARE issue going forward.
My second question is, the state has recently required schools to add LGBT history to their history lessons. Do you see this as separate and apart from adding Islamic history, or the same?
No, I see it separate and as apart from this issue, and I am not prepared to address those issues. I assume that there are statistics about LGBT students being bullied and necessity for addressing those particular issues in a particular way. But I do see that as a separate issue from this one. And again, we're talking about a very sensitive issue when we talk about religion. Our founding fathers came here and established this Constitution because they were religious refugees and they were being persecuted for their religious beliefs at home. So the way our Constitution was written, with the very first rights and the very first amendment of the no establishment of religion clause and the free exercise clause, our system of government was set up to make sure government does not in any way formally endorse or promote religion the way they were doing for example, in England, when they had a state-run religion that everybody had to belong to and support. So I do see these issues different in a practical way of how you assess and handle with them, but also legally in terms of the constitutional issues. They're very different. And this is based upon constitutional issues, primarily geared at how you handle the religious freedom issues and establishment clause issues. Yes?
Would a jury trial be a last resort? I saw something about jury trial.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. Probably in the context of my expertise is as a civil trial lawyer and board certified in pretrial practice and trial advocacy. So sometimes these cases will go to a jury trial, like I represented before. Firefighters that were ordered to be in the gay pride parade, which was a political cause, and we prevailed in front of the jury in the Court of Appeal on that issue on slightly different constitutional grounds. But that's my expertise. These issues, though, involving establishment clause, if the facts are not in dispute, oftentimes they'll be decided by a judge and not a jury. We'll have to see what facts are in dispute and what are not. If there's facts in dispute, then usually the citizens sitting on a jury will resolve those facts. If the facts are not in dispute, then they'll probably be resolved by a judge as a matter of law. So I'm not quite sure which direction this is headed, but they're usually decided by a judge because the basic facts, by the time you do your discovery, we ask for a Freedom of Information Act request from the school district as to all their communications with CARE and all their written policies. And they said it'll take 16 weeks, but we eventually will get all of that. We'll have a pretty good idea of what happened without having to have a jury sort through all those facts. It should be stated, a judge can look at that, and we believe the judge would say, no, 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 no. You can't do that. You can't have CARE come in, which is ostensibly a religious organization, and set up all of these programs under the pretext of preventing bullying, which is not a problem for Muslim students as far as we have seen.
So in San Diego?
In San Diego?
Take place here.
Yes, we filed the lawsuit in federal district court here in San Diego, so it would take place here. You're welcome.
Do you foresee that you'll be able to work this out with the district? Do you have any kind of plans to meet, or
The
are you optimistic?
preliminary, thank you. The preliminary indications are they've expressed an interest in doing so, and that's encouraging, and I'm in favor of doing that. Litigation should be last resort. It's a very expensive and inefficient way to resolve disputes. It's still the best system in the world because it's better than the Wild West and people have got each other down the streets. But sometimes it's more painful, so it lasts longer. And although I make my living as a trial lawyer, my heroes are St. Thomas More and Abraham Lincoln, and they always told their clients, try to settle your cases. The Bible says that too. Try to avoid going to court. Nothing is a sure thing in going to court, although we feel in this case we have extremely strong constitutional grounds. If we can work things out without a lot of headache and expense for everybody, that will be our preferred course of action. And we hope to maybe be in discussions with the school district attorneys as early as next week if they're of mind to do so. Yes, sir.
Would the use of a religious minister of a particular religion in a classroom setting in a public school sort of cross the boundary between education and indoctrination or instruction in a particular religion? I
think it would depend upon what that course is all about. If it's a comparative religions course or something like that, and you're going to bring in a priest or rabbi, minister, imam, that would be appropriate. But if you're going to bring in a representative of one religion in just a general social studies class, it's an imam to talk about the 5 pillars of Islam. I actually saw a Department of Education film put out by the federal government where they were interviewing devout adherents to Islam, and they're saying there's only one God but Allah, and Muhammad is a prophet in a very devout, earnest way, and I respect their beliefs, but why are you showing that in the schools? It really did smack of proselytizing. So it depends upon, there's a test called Lemon test, or Lemon v. Kurtz. What's the purpose and what's the effect? And sometimes it seems like it's kind of subjective interpretation. A lot of you know I defended the Mount Soledad Cross case for 12 years in San Diego, and you had multiple judges looking at the same facts coming to completely different conclusions as to what was the purpose and what was the effect. So it can be rather subjective. But when it comes to the classroom, the cases, the courts tend to be very defensive of a situation where you've got children who are very impressionable, and you cannot use that medium to promote your faith. And I believe that's what CARE is trying to do. I mean, they're not quiet about that. Look at their website. That's their purpose. That's why they exist. And dressing it up as a bullying thing, I'm sorry, I don't buy it unless I see some real statistics. And they address the bullying. Part of their program, the lady in the back asked, which you might object to, they have a restorative justice component, which only applies to Muslim students, where I guess the students are going to meet and talk about things and work things out. But what does that mean? Does that mean that non-Muslim students have to defer to the Muslim students in terms of their beliefs if the Muslim students feel offended and bullied? I don't know, but that is a unique form of this particular program that doesn't apply to any other type of bullying, where you're going to have this conversation back and forth, whereas these open a lot of opportunities for abuse if the non-Muslim student feels they're being forced to have to capitulate to a belief system that they may not share. So how you do things, what's the purpose and what's the effect is going to be the key. I will not say you can't bring in Iman in any class at any time, but if you're going to do that, again, what's the purpose? And are you going to allow other people of other faiths? But obviously, if I'm hearing, as I did when I interviewed on the Carl DeMaio show earlier in the week, that they're bringing in Imans to a 6th grade class. Sixth graders are pretty young and pretty impressionable, and if they're only bringing in Imans and no other religious group, I think on the face of it, that's problematic.
Very problematic.
I can take the question in back while they're working with the microphone. Do you have someone have a question?
I think that the restorative justice program, the purpose and effect would be to have one side to capitulate to the other side. That you think that's the purpose of restorative justice?
Blame and shame?
I don't know what the purpose is. The purpose presumably would be that students understand where each other is coming from and they be more accepting and tolerant. No one has a problem with that purpose, okay? But if the effect is people feel they have to be silent about expressing their views, particularly if it's appropriately done in an educational setting, because other students may feel offended, that's problematic. And we have seen that, as I think Mary Baker pointed out. If there's some students express views that are not politically correct, even in an appropriate setting, they could be shut down and marginalized or even threatened with discipline if other students are offended by that. And quite frankly, I've seen that on the marriage debates. If students express a view in a certain setting, academic setting, against same-sex marriage, they could be basically threatened with discipline, or at least made to feel as though their religious views are not only unwelcome, but in fact could subject them to some type of discipline. So depending what restorative justice means and how it's carried out, if it is just to get people talking and accepting of each other, that is fine. But if it is to promote one particular viewpoint and to threaten even impliedly to punish another viewpoint, that is not fine. Yes, sir.
Would students have the right to opt out of this class without any detriment towards their graduation?
It's my understanding there has been discussion about opt-out provisions. And that could be one approach. It's not ideal because it's oftentimes difficult to get the word out sufficiently in advance that the opt-out provision exists, and then for parents to make arrangements with how that opt-out is going to work for their student, and then sometimes there is pressure not to opt out. So opt-out options are not always optimal, but it's better than none. And it's my understanding that they have talked about opt-out. Now, if it's a general survey program, why would you need to opt out? So when they say we're going to do opt-out because they're introducing special Islamic curricular programs, and I have a bigger problem. You shouldn't need an opt-out. You shouldn't be doing that.
Well, two things. If there's no opt-out, then it says that this is, in a sense, trapping the students into enduring that particular class. It may only not be an entire semester of classes, but it could be 1 or 2 classes.
Oh, sure.
A student could say, I defer to my own religion, and I would like to opt out of this class.
Yes, and that was.
That doesn't exist, and so it hasn't even been thought of yet to be formalized. So there's a very much a one-sided approach to
Right.
garnering students and retaining them in a classroom where they may not really want to be.
Yes, I understand, and I would agree with that. Anything else? For anyone else? Okay. We're already way past the time we anticipated. I appreciate all of you again showing up and giving us an opportunity to express our viewpoint and to field your questions. And it's been illuminating, and I appreciate it. That's one more.
Just want to say that we shouldn't be as stupid as the Muslims and care is sly like a fox. We
Yeah.
need to stop this now.
Well, that's why we brought the lawsuit, because we feel that if you're going to do a program like this, there could be a right way to do it, but they're not going about it the right way. And it should be done correctly from the beginning so that all students feel that they can be made a part of it and, again, be subject to the same rights and benefits and not one group singled out. So, thank you.
Thank you.